Hey, Andagda the Witch. This is Jess Bear with Jess Bear Chats, a little place on the corner of the YouTube internets that talks about spirituality, activism, and other things in the lens of a American who is practicing an Irish pagan path. I had a very interesting question come in from my friend Ben. He is looking to move away from some of his traditional spiritual traditions, mostly Christianity, and he is feeling a call to look into a different path, a different way. And he asked me specifically how I came about finding my path and if he would have any suggestions for me, from me, excuse me. So I wanted to, I did give him some advice and some resources, and I also kind of want to expand on the topic with you all here. Also, sorry for the long wait. Um, the world has been weird. Anyway, so uh, I think there's, at least for me, in my experience, I know that I definitely didn't start my spiritual journey with the intention of following the Irish pagan path. Uh, I started off as a Christian at 6 years old. My family went to a church since I was that age, and well into my late teens and early 20s, I considered myself a Christian. And then I had a few years of not really believing in anything, but trying a whole lot of different things. And I then went back to Christianity, although I found a church that was a little more reasonable and understanding of the person that I was. But I didn't really feel a connection to the spiritual aspect anymore. I liked the people. The people were wonderful, but I wasn't feeling the connection that I felt like I needed. I started going to a Irish, excuse me, not an Irish pagan, but just a general convention for pagans that used to be called Pantheacon. And there I experimented with many different rituals, and I also went to different workshops and presentations and just sort of dabbling for a long time until one of those conventions I heard Laura do that's Laura O'Brien, from the Irish Pagan School, who did a guided meditation to the Cave of Cats, which is the Morrigan's Cave in Ireland. That was a first real, very intense um, experience that I had uh, with an Irish deity, but it was a very intimidating one and one I did not want to try again. Um, but needless to say, the minute that I was on the Great Queen's radar, I started seeing a lot more of her in my life on a regular basis. Um, Before then, I had been working almost exclusively with the goddess Lilith, which is a very long story, and maybe one day I'll tell you about it, but today is not that day. Anyway, about a year later, I went to the convention again, and that time John O'Sullivan was there, and he told his story, The Dog Does Work, which completely hit me in my sternum. And it felt like an awakening and a coming home. And after I talked to him, very much, telling him how much his work meant to me, I started doing much more research and trying to find people who also believed in these gods and goddesses from the island of Ireland. And, and that really started me off and put me on the path that I am now. So, with that experience, what can I tell the listener who is trying different things, who is confused or lost, and doesn't know where to begin? A couple of very quick tips that I hope will help you. The first is research. I know that's not very helpful if you feel like you're looking for a place to start. But with that, I would say, what is of interest to you? Are you looking to connect with a focused tradition? Are you looking to work with specific gods? Is there something either in your past or something you've been exposed to recently that sparks your interest, or something you felt like you had a connection with at one point, but you had to let it go for certain reasons? Now you should take the time to pick that up again. And it's not something that I would suggest that you maintain as the most reliable of sources, but like like some very smart eels have said in the past, if you don't really know where to start, Wikipedia, it can be a place to start. So type in that name of that deity and look at the source links. Look at those resources that are available through there and start looking at the lore that those spiritual guides and guardians are from. Go ahead and take a look at the land that those gods and guardians come from and learn about their history and the people that lived there, lived when those myths were made, and the history that brought them to the present day. That cultural context, that historical context is very important to understand, especially as if you're coming from somebody who is not of that culture and is not of that land. It is what I believe to be a very sacred responsibility to understand these cultures in order to fully recognize and understand what these gods are asking of you if they have started perking your interest. The next thing I would suggest is to experiment. You don't have to make a solemn oath to any god or goddess or spirit the minute you meet them. You don't have to make a pledge to a tradition or a faith structure or anything like that when you're still unsure. But there are plenty of places that have either online hosts of meetings, group gatherings that you can go to. You can read about different rituals and you can try things out for yourself. You can celebrate holidays based on traditions and rituals that people have already performed. I strongly encourage you to reach out and try things that may feel a little bit out of your comfort zone. Okay? The next is to find a trustworthy community to get that information from, right? Especially when you're looking into doing ritual work. There's going to be people that have been around for a long time, people that know more about these traditions and these rituals than you do, and they should be able to point you in the right direction. They can also support you in your spiritual growth. If you're doing anything in regards to meditations or journeys, if you're keeping a journal, which I highly recommend you keep some sort of journal or diary or online audio of your experiences so you can listen or look back on them in order to pick up patterns, which is something that Laura O'Brien talks about very extensively in her meditation practices, and how to really grow in the Irish pagan path. But I think that's just sound advice for anybody who is trying to find an authentic spiritual connection to any spiritual path that they look to grow into, or to see if it works for them. And with that trustworthy community, that's also talking with the gods and the spirits that are trying to get your attention, or that you would like to start a conversation with. Finally, stay open. You know, as I said, you don't have to make a contract. You don't have to make an agreement. Sometimes it's just a matter of opening up a line of communication. And it can literally be as simple as lighting a candle, or putting out a glass of water, or a beverage that you enjoy, or you think that that guide or god or guardian would really appreciate, and say, hey, I'm here. I'm interested to learn more about you, and would you like to sort of meet me and have a conversation with me? And if they want to, they will. If they don't, well, then that means it's still about looking around and finding something that will work, and working with gods and guardians that want to work with you as well. So I think maybe finally is, don't get discouraged. You know, there is so much to learn. And, I could say, I think someone has said it better than I have in the past, it can take a lifetime to learn. And honestly, if you stop learning, then you're probably dead. um, so, enjoy the process of the trying of the new things, and finding something that really suits you, and a tradition or a faith, or just a single relationship with a spiritual entity that works for you. And, you know, just keep going on. So I think that's a pretty good first vibe. Like I said, it took me a long time for me to find what I'm doing right now. And who knows, maybe this won't be something I stay on forever. People change, things change, the gods change their minds. So be open, stay open. Okay? What has your experience been like? Have you been struggling finding your own spiritual path? Do you want clarification? Do you have suggestions for people who are looking for information like this? Go ahead and leave it in the comments. If you want to talk more about it, or any topic, you can always email me at justbearchats@gmail.com. And finally, you can most definitely, if you would like to say, hey, this is great stuff, I love what you're doing, you can always put a little bit of tip in the tip jar at my Ko-fi.com site. All right? So that's it for now. I missed you all. I hope you are all doing your best to stay safe, stay well, and stay well fed.